Hello, welcome to Tuesday, October 27th daily instructional video. Today we're going to be working on Senor Noboba. Okay, for your warm-up today, you need to write 3 complex sentences about Senor Noboa. You should have read the story and annotated it yesterday. These sentences can be about anything from the story, including character, themes, and setting. So I want to go to Google Classroom and go to this assignment with complex sentences. We weren't doing so good on these. Students were writing more like we're writing compound sentences and not complex sentences. So I attached this handout again that goes over the different types of sentences: simple, compound, complex, and compound complex. You need to pay attention to right here the description of a complex sentence. Complex sentences have at least, let me zoom in. So complex sentences have one or more dependent clauses and one independent clause. A dependent clause starts with a subordinating conjunction. And we use this funny word called a woobus in order to memorize the different subordinating conjunctions. These are not all the subordinating conjunctions right here. As, although, after, while, when, until, unless, because, before. But these are an if, since. These are the most commonly used ones. So when you write a complex sentence, you need to make sure your dependent clause starts with one of these words or a relative pronoun. I'd prefer you use a subordinating conjunction this time to get practice. Dependent clauses and independent clauses both have subject and verbs, but a dependent clause starts with a subordinating conjunction and it does not express a complete thought. If you look up here, after he ate, I guess that's not going to highlight. Okay, there it is. After he ate lunch at the Cheesecake Factory, if we just were to take that dependent clause by itself, if I remove the word after, that would actually be a complete sentence. He ate lunch at the Cheesecake Factory. But because we've included that subordinating conjunction, that word after, it now makes it an incomplete thought. This is now a dependent clause, and it depends on the independent clause to help it make sense. So why are you saying this? After he ate lunch at the Cheesecake Factory, what is it you want? What happened to him? What did he do? And that's why you need the rest of the independent clause to make sense. So make sure when you're writing your complex sentences that you have at least one dependent clause. You can have more, and then one independent clause. You can see here, right here, this is the dependent clause is actually at the beginning. We see one here at the end, and then one here in the middle. Oops. So those are some examples for you to see. So you can go ahead and pause your video and complete your warm-up and write your 3 complex sentences about Senor Noboa. Okay, so recapping some Red Ribbon Week. Today is Western Wear Day. And then Wednesday is going to be wear matching outfits, or like Twin Day. So I have a video for you to watch about peonage. It is a type of bound slavery. So you'll see this one is about it happening in the United States, but the story when we're reading Senor Noboa, the workers in the labor camps there are pretty much in a perpetual state of poverty because they owe so much money to the landowner, so that they're in this vicious cycle of never being able to repay it. But this gives you an idea of what those workers' lives were like in the story with Senor Noboa and on the plantation, on the banana plantation. Remember, that setting is in Latin America. You can pause the video and this video to watch the other video. So your background information about for the story. In Central America, plantation owners and corporations have long exploited laborers in a system known as peonage. It is a system that peons have little power, earn little money, and are kept in the perpetual debt to the landowners for whom they work. If you go back in the text, you'll remember how much. My question to you is, how much did they get paid in the story? It actually tells you. Peonage is also called debt slavery. Laborers are forced to work to pay off debt. However, they don't make enough to avoid going into further debt. It's a continuous cycle. And Senor Noboa is a plantation owner with peons. Some cross-curricular perspectives. This story is a piece of flash fiction. Flash fiction is characterized by very short stories, usually less than 1,000 words, that nonetheless contain character, plot, and theme development. Also known as what's called sudden fiction or microfiction. Flash fiction can be as short as a single paragraph or even a single sentence. The roots of flash fiction might go back as far as prehistory, including early recorded fables and tales. One especially restricted form of flash fiction is the 6-word short story. This popular example is often attributed to, if you've ever read pieces by Ernest Hemingway, though the attribution has never been sustained. So, for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And that was an example of the extremely short flash fiction. Today, many writers of flash fiction share their works in the internet or through social media. One subgenre limits writers to 280 characters, which is short enough to be posted on the social networking websites and apps. And Senor Noboa is a flash fiction. So today's worksheet, we're working on peer group discussion and responding to questions after having that discourse with the group. I know you're being remote. You won't have that luxury of having someone to discuss, but maybe this is such a short story. Maybe you have somebody in your home that's willing to read the story with you and have some of these discussions. Or maybe you know somebody who's remote and a freshman that has read the story that you can have these discussions. Please feel free to do that. It's great to talk about it so that you can get other people's perspectives and compare them to your own and see if you formulate some new thinking based on these discussions. So your first worksheet that you're working on is the peer group one. And is asking you to engage in meaningful discourse with your group and share passages from the story that you found especially interesting. Discuss what you notice, the questions you have, and the conclusions you reach. So to get you started, I did give you 2 paragraphs to look at. Paragraph 4, I would like for you to discuss the effects of the author's humorous tone. So think about that and then write your response. What do you think about his humorous tone? Is it effective, ineffective, appropriate, not appropriate? Paragraph 9, discuss the description of Senor Noboa's tirade. So when he gets angry and goes off onto his workers, discuss that. Discuss the description. What does that look like? What happens? And then any other passage in the story that you found interesting and you would like to discuss it, go ahead and write your response here. On the back, we're looking at irony. Yesterday, we did a little mini lesson over irony. So we're going to go through these questions. What main conflict existed between Senor Noboa and his workers? Think about it. Is it an internal and external? Make sure you cite specific details to support your response. Number 2, the story contains numerous details that describe Senor Noboa's wealth and power. Cite at least 5 of these details. So I'm looking for quotes. I'm looking for you to quote something from the text, 5 different things. And then what do these details lead the reader to expect about the story's resolution, and explain. So then after you cite them, make sure you explain, and always write complete sentences. Explain the difference between Senor Noboa knows about his own legend and what ultimately turns out to be excuse me, the truth. So again, think about that and write your response here. And then what do you think Senor Noboa expects to happen as a result of his tirade, and what happened instead? So write your response here. And in what ways is the story strong example of situational irony? So be sure to explain how this would excuse me, how this is actually an example of situational irony. Remember, the opposite situational irony is the opposite happens of what is expected. And then draw your own conclusion. Why do you think the author condenses the story's resolution and the ironic ending into a single paragraph? What would be the purpose of that? Think about it. And what kind of effect does it have on the text and on the reader? So that was our group discussion today. You'll answer these questions, complete sentences. Make sure you do not have any unclear pronouns. Notice that this assignment was assigned on the 10th, on the October 27th. It's due on October 28th, and the last day to turn it in for late grade is the 29th. After that, it will stay as 0 if you do not turn it in. The next worksheet that we're doing is some questions over the text. Let me go zoom in. And if you want to discuss this if you have somebody that you're talking about, it's fine. You are writing your own responses, your own original responses. There's no copying here. But there you can have discussions if you need help. What is the most valuable thing Senor Noboa possesses, and why do the laborers refuse to look at Senor Noboa, and what object leads to Senor Noboa's death? So make sure we're writing our response here. I'm not going to go read through all the questions actually, but this is pretty much clear. You read through all these and answer them. Make sure you give complete responses. Make sure you answer all the questions that are being asked, because there's layered questions here. And if you do not use complete sentences or you have unclear pronouns in your writing, I will take points off. This assignment is signed on October 27th, but it's not due to October 28th. And the last day to turn it in is the 30th. So just because it isn't due to the 29th doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, because you might have something else assigned tomorrow that will be due the next day. So make sure you are keeping up with that. Alrighty, and so that was our group work. These are the questions we went through with the group work. And then when you finish, again, you've answered those questions. And that will be it for today. I only have 15 kids that are remote now. So Google Meets would be perfect for everyone to show up and have almost like a little mini class period. So if you have any questions or need any help, please make sure you reach out, email me, and let me know. Have a good day.